All right, welcome all to the premiere of Beavs World with Jay. Listen. I can't find a more energetic guy in the world. With this guy, starts
It's
his day
it's
about.
it's the Red Bull. It's the Red Bull, Angel. I can't disguise it.
Is that
And
what it
my
is?
I always have my bottled water with me.
That's the best way to do it, though. Let's
Well,
see.
yeah, it's funny when you talk about energy. If you're looking at my shirt,
Uh
if
huh.
things didn't break right about an hour and a half ago, there would be no Beavs World show tonight. Oh my lord, what a game! And they're hanging tough in game two here because I think America wants to see the Atlanta Braves eliminated with the BS they pulled in this to get to the situation we are. And how do you like to be a Diamondbacks fan today?
Ooh.
They used a natural disaster and a hurricane to manipulate their pitching. So Spencer Stellenbosch could start 2 games in 3 days, which you wouldn't have been able to do if they played last week. And the Mets, of course, came back, somehow tried to give the game away, and then took it away and won in extras. I mean, won 8-7. And what do you know, Angel? Chris Sale's not healthy enough to pitch. No way, really?
You know, it's a
That's
shock
why
to
they
some
did
people.
this.
Yeah.
That's why they did this. They manipulated all this because he can't pitch. That's why the Red Sox said, "Hey, can you take this guy? He makes a lot of money and he's always hurt."
it
But it's all. And the larger picture is, we all know about the Steve Cohen tax. And Angel, you're a fan of a team, the Phillies, that spends money too. So certain teams do not get breaks. So no matter what happens right now, I think I might be pitching the ninth inning tomorrow night for the Mets. Because I mean, Edwin Diaz, I think he threw 150 pitches. I'm kidding. He threw about 50. But and he had to pitch. They had to pitch all these games, extra games, and it's nuts. Uh, so it's nuts what's going on here. But tremendous rally and job on my team. But I feel awful for the Diamondbacks. One of my U of M buddies, Tommy Henry, is on the Diamondbacks. He's a pitcher, and they're defending NL champions in the Atlanta Braves, who have made a career about choking in the playoffs for about 30 years. Uh, just tried to pull one over everybody's eyes, and my boys took them out and beat them. And this is for the Mike Piazza teams in 98 and 99 who had their season ended by this team, and the 2022 team, which Pete Alonso, Nimmo, Diaz, Jeff McNeil, who's hurt. I think Starling Marte was on that team. A lot of our guys were on that team. That team won 101 games and lost the division the last week of the season in Atlanta. They beat us 2 out of 3. Give them great credit. They didn't cheat that time. They actually beat us legit. But it took so much out of our both of our teams. We both got eliminated. I think your Phillies beat the Braves, and the Padres beat us. But it's going to be fun. We're going to be obviously, um, uh, you know, not 100%, because what the Braves did. If the good Lord is watching, the Braves want to be around tomorrow. But because the Braves decided, they manipulated the rules, and I was just literally talking to you 5 minutes before he came on about Sale, and I just checked. He didn't pitch. Do the Braves need this game, Angel?
just a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So they got, and the other thing is they blew out their bullpen trying to beat
mhm.
us because they made the mistake we did. They brought their closer in the eighth inning, and then not only did their manager do it, Carlos, who I love, Mendoza, he got brain dead, and he brought Diaz in, and then Diaz became bigger brain dead. He forgot to cover first base, which changed the whole inning and set everything up. But it was just an unbelievable, one of the greatest wins in the history of the Mets, and I go back to about 1981 with them. And we don't have to hear this crap about the Braves anymore because that was a bone crushing, like not quite Bucky Dent and all the other ones, but I wish that was an elimination game. It would have been great. But yeah, it's a good day to be a Mets fan. Let's go Mets, baby.
It's first one. Obviously, they won 8-7, and now at the bottom of the fifth, Atlanta's up 1-0. But I mean, that makes absolutely no difference. And I think for Mets fans, it makes it. first of all, I love the NL East because there's always drama in NL East,
Oh
no
yeah,
matter which way you look at it. But I think the big one, it's to me, Mets fans every year we hear the same way, like you just mentioned when the Phillies said, and just like the Mets, they want to spend stupid money. Phillies did to an extent, but not as much as they probably wanted to. So far, our pitching staff is okay. They are good, but they're okay. We know it, Jay, that come postseason, every team, you can have what did Tampa Bay said a couple years ago? They had a stable full of horses, and they came up short. So you never know what the postseason comes around. It's a complete different beast. It's different from the NBA, NHL, NFL. So Mets
no,
fans wait
you
around,
never know what's going to happen in playoff baseball.
right?
I mean, look at I just mentioned the Diamondbacks last year. They went in and beat your Phillies, who had a great team and a great year. 2 games in in Philly of all places. Didn't they win the last 3 games?
Yep.
Didn't they win games? They won, or did they lose Game 5? Did they lose Game 5 in Arizona?
They lost Game 5 in Arizona, went back to Philly and shut it down, turned the lights off as soon as the
And
bank
then
park.
they won Game 6 and 7. Now, who started those games? I'm trying to remember. Did
Crap.
Aaron Nola? Did Aaron Nola start one of them?
I believe I want to say Game 7, if I remember correctly. I'm almost certain that was Nola for Game 7. Let's see if I can look
There
it
you
up
go.
here.
So it's interesting when you think about it. Yeah, when you look at the Aaron Nola, did Wheeler start one of them?
Chris Wheeler,
Speaking of great Mets mistakes,
I believe
it was
they
just
said, I'm almost certain it was Game 6 and
I
7.
love. So I should tell you this, Angel. Out of all the great Mets young pitchers, Zach Wheeler was my favorite. I hated Matt Harvey. Always hated him. I liked Syndergaard. I liked Syndergaard because he threw at Chase Utley,
Right.
and um, I liked Steven Matz, but he's like a third or fourth starter. Uh, I loved DeGrom, but he was always hurt, and they were right to let him go. Um, but again, I love Zach Wheeler. Always liked Zach Wheeler, and it was big. Him being hurt was why we lost in 2015. We were just short. One extra pitcher. We had so many guys, but that's a cautionary tale when you look at teams. When you think, oh, we'll always have a chance to win. Well, like the Tigers are doing right now. It's like, oh, they're always going to have a chance. Look how good Screwball is. Screwball could go out and pitch tomorrow and have his arm fall off, and that's what happens here. A lot of these guys. And with the injuries and so forth. So um, it is what it is. But you never know. Like the Yankees just had a couple of pitchers go down. Whereas Nestor Cortez went down, and look at the Marlins team with Beckett and AJ Barnett and all those guys when they're really good. And Dontrell Willis and all those guys. So it's interesting when you look at things and just think about that and so forth. But yeah, it's playoff baseball, baby.
So you're looking at what if the Mets hang in there, because obviously they have between the Mets in Arizona or the Mets in Atlanta against Milwaukee. If I'm certain was if the Mets win, I believe they play Milwaukee. Am I correct?
Yes. Let me double check.
Or is it no?
Double. I had it all written down.
I'm
Yes,
almost,
because the Braves will win the tiebreaker. Right
yeah.
now, the season series is tied between the two teams. And in all honesty, if I'm the Mets, I'd rather play the Brewers. They were just there, and I think the Padres are really dangerous. Um, and the Brewers Mets winner is in the Phillies bracket,
Mhm.
so that's really interesting. So you and I are gonna have a steel cage match there, Angel. So just off the start, because we start with the Mets, but I got to say a couple things. Special thanks to you and Pete for bringing me on. We're new, but we're old. I've known Pete a long, long time. But you've been great to me and like a guiding light. My flip phone's over here. I should grab it. I am clearly not Mr. Tech. Here's my flip phone. Looks like Star Trek. Beam me up, Scotty. Um, but I'm just a sports nut. You guys joke about my energy. Most of my friends will tell you I sleep about 3 or 4 hours a night, and I'm fine. and I used to like go home at like 5, 6 in the morning and they lead staff meetings 2 hours later. So things like that, at different jobs and things. But I love sports. Mostly football, baseball, and hockey, which is why Angel and I get along. He's Mr. Broad Street Bullies and the Flyers. But I'm a two home guy. I'm from Andover, Massachusetts. I have so many great friends and connections there, led by CPR. You'll hear me talk about him all the time. Coach
Right.
Peter Riley, CPR. Everybody has nicknames with me. And he's the longtime special teams coach of my high school. He actually, back in the day, used to coach me when I was returning punts and other things a long time ago. And he's still the special teams coach at Andover. I talk to him every night. I'm making fun of him right now because the Red Sox are golfing. And my team is not, and that gives me great pleasure to bring that up. The Patriots wish they could go golfing, but they have a whole bunch of free games they got to play continuously. 49ers invited them to a scrimmage yesterday and with half their team missing and beat the bejesus out of them.
Sure did.
But obviously, I'm known for Ann Arbor. I moved out here in May of '93, worked for the football team and went to school. Graduated in '99, came back in '02, and started getting into media because of this sudden relationship that hit the news with this skinny backup quarterback kid I befriended in Michigan, this Thomas Edward Brady kid. I get asked all the time, what has he done since college? Has he been in the news? Has he done anything? But Pete used to have him on his show once in a while, and there's Pete. There's Tom back there. There's there you go. There you go from
There
the
you go.
Buccaneers, and just been very lucky and a big turning point in my life. Deflategate scandal and the Jim Harbaugh hiring, which I was involved with a bunch of other guys who bring Coach Harbaugh here, and that worked out pretty good. And it was a really big low point in my life. And day after we had a big event here in Michigan in Ann Arbor, Tommy and Coach Harbaugh and a whole bunch of other guys were there with me, and it was great recruiting, signing of the stars. And literally the next day at work, who is now my business partner and an important driving force in my life, Kathy Hoekstra walked in with her diabetic son, who was going to get a hospital test. Diabetes, by the way, is my favorite disease because of that. So very important, and it's obviously an awful disease. I'm making a joke about it, but
Right.
it's something near and dear to my heart. I help on my buddy Rich Hewlett, who's got a golf tournament, and other people. And I joke with Kathy that I'm glad she loves hamburgers because she came to my hamburger place. We have a mutual friend who was the owner. But Kathy helped change my life, and I started doing media. We did Beavs World. She's my business partner. And we'll probably have her on Michigan State Week because unfortunately her husband is a Sparty. So she's a huge Michigan fan. That's how she knew me. She'll tell you the story when she's on. But it was a big turning point in my life, low point. I'm a big believer in through adversity you grow and get better. You and I have talked about so we both had depression, mental health things, and I know people are stunned that I have battled depression because I'm 24/7 on, but it's reality of life. We all have our bad days and moments. Um, I just try. I'm actually, believe it or not, better at helping others at times than I am at helping myself, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And that's one of my flaws. I'm the only child. My parents had me, and they stopped sleeping together. Come on, Angel, that was fine. The so, but no, it's been really blessed life in a lot of different ways. And I just love talking sports and working with good dudes like you and entertaining. I have this ridiculous circle of friends. A lot of them are going to want to come on. We got a good one Wednesday. And, we're fired up and ready to rock.
No, that's the fun part about it. And I think when you had mentioned as far as the short amount of sleep, I've been like that for many, many years where it's short sleep. And no matter how short it is, you just function the next day, keep it going, and your adrenaline, keeps it pumping for sure. I think for me, because of post military life, it's the 2 hour regimen. It took me even I almost to this day, if I don't take sleepy stuff at nighttime, I don't go to bed. But even if I don't, it's 2 hours, get back up, bounce around, and that's it. But my wife, when we first met, um, she couldn't believe it because that's the way it was. I literally slept for 2 hours, up, running, and moving. When you own the network, it's tough because you got to constantly you got to stay up there. What goes on before you go to bed? As soon as you get up in the morning, you got to figure out exactly what happened during the overnight hours, and then get everything up and running. So I know as far as like the energy, the adrenaline. everything to make everything fun and entertaining for everybody else. And a lot of times it really is like you have a bad day, you can turn on sports and you say, you know what, my day may not have been as bad as another team like the Red
Yeah.
Sox, for example, who are out for the season. But yeah, it's what we do. It's it's fun. I'm glad you're here for sure, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. I mean, because the Massachusetts Michigan connection, especially with old TB12 there, which I think he's doing a pretty good job behind the mic, even though he's kind of limited per
He
se.
was great yesterday. I got to listen to a lot of the game. Sorry at your expense, but the it was interesting. He made a lot of good, interesting points, particularly about dealing with the heat. I just heard you and Q talking about it um, because it was. Tommy said he was on with Kevin Burkhardt, ex Mets broadcaster, that it was 107 heat index.
Yeah.
I mean, and so if you didn't hear, if you weren't listening, I know you were Angel. Tommy talked about before Tommy got to the Bucks, they didn't have the cooling things on the benches,
Right.
and obviously Tommy had limited experience dealing with severe heat. You know, they go and play the Dolphins once a year, but depending on what time of game, it could be in September or December. They don't know how cold it's going to be. But so Tommy went to Darcy, the owner. Darcy Glazer is tremendous, the Bucks owner, and they got the cooling benches and other things. And you know, the Bucks are a really good first class organization, and obviously they figured out the Eagles. But you know, as far as the Eagles go, you know, make fun of Sirianni all you want. Now, I do it all the time too. Those defensive linemen need to get in shape. That's Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter.
Mhm.
And, you know, let's see A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith healthy. They're hurt. Um, and it's crazy. Pete's chanting in here with he got the Mr. Fuji win the other night with the refs at the end of the game with the Virginia Tech Miami game. But I love Pete. Love you, Pete. Thank you so much. And like a mentor to me, big brother, and he literally big brother. He's much bigger than me, but you know, it's pretty cool. And I used to listen to him and Fred Smirlis and Pete Brock and Steve DiOssi. And Steve DiOssi was one of my boys because he played for the '90 Giants, which is one of my all-time favorite NFL teams. But you know, I'm excited. You know, the Mets is a whole other issue, and we got hockey coming, and you know, obviously, just NFL by itself, there's always a story. We got two great games tonight. I
Yep.
get the Lions pregame show on the back listening. I'm old school, Angel. I listen to a lot of radio, and you probably listen to the WIP and all those guys, and Howard and all those guys, and my buddy Jody McDonald, who does Philly and New York on WFAN and CBS Sports Radio, whatever the hell they call it now, Xfinity, whatever the hell, what do they call it now? The used to be
Xfinity.
CBS Sports
Yeah,
Radio,
and
yeah,
then you
Xfinity.
have with Beasley and the rest of
Yeah,
those guys.
so I go back. So I was going to St. John's in New York City from '91 to '93. Jody Mack used to do a wrestling show
Oh wow.
on a pro wrestling show, and it was like at 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday or Saturday night. I know you're all stunned that I wasn't out with the date. I know you were stunned that I wasn't on big social night on Friday night and Saturday night, but yeah, I was my date was Jack Daniels, but the no,
I
it
bet.
was yeah, and Jack didn't talk back either. Uh, the so no, it was big learning experience. You get to listen to Mike and the Mad Dog, and they're both doing their own thing. You know, I actually watched Mad Dog today on High Heat, talking about the Mets, and you know, it was cool to get to listen to those guys. And then when I moved back to New York, I'm from New York to Boston in '02, '01, '02, when Pete, you know, started doing the Tommy show. He's one of the first guys to really talk about Tom instead of Bledsoe, which was a whole other. We've seen the documentaries and the Dynasty, which I am of course in episode 8, Burn It. But it's people actually like my spot in the episode, but it's but when Tom was here at Michigan, and a lot of people know the story, but it's good. I mean, we're in a good place and fired up and ready to go.
That's right. Listen, after when we come back from the break, I want to pick your brain a little bit as far as what it was like with Tom out in Michigan. For those who don't know, for their new coming into the show and hearing you for the first time. So we're going to go into the break. When we come back, I want to get into Tom a little bit, not as the broadcaster. Obviously, I want to get him in as far as what he's done, what he did at Michigan before he got the call to the Patriots. Of course, the rest of us know that the rest of it is history. And who knows? I mean, people keep, he said he's done with football. I believe that he is. Some people say, well, if Miami comes to calling, would he go to Miami? That was supposedly, that was one of his destinations, supposed alleged, other than Chicago, which we learned last night during the broadcast, which is pretty exciting. So
I can actually talk about this. Yes, the Bears. I can talk about this. It's true what Tommy said. That was one of the teams.
All right. Well, we'll get into it as soon as we come back from a break here. Thank you all for tuning in. Of course, the premiere of Beavs World here with Jay. This is going to be a great time. Mondays, Wednesday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. And then Jay will join me on Friday mornings at 11 o'clock over on Martinez Company. So this will be a great time. But you are listening to Beavs World live on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The Game. We'll be right back.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Jim and the Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our second location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak, our Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu. And guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it gardenia. It's pronounced Jardiniere.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, welcome back. Beavs World here with Jay on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The Game. Don't forget, you guys can call or text the show at 727-858-6650, 727-858-6650, and you make your social media comments on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Rumble, and I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting one, but basically, you can go do it live on sr1029thegame.com. You guys can download the app while you're there. And by the way, speaking of, on the top right-hand corner or left, depending on how you're looking at your screen, there is the QR code that you guys can download the app directly from that QR code to make things even super simple. And thank you guys once again for the premiere here, Beavs World with Jay. And Jay, as we went into the break, so Tom Brady, who comes with obviously a rich history of, the ups and downs. We know about his divorce. We heard it was really tough on him, but
has that been covered in the media? I'm kidding.
I don't think so. I don't. I haven't heard about it whatsoever. But it's funny because when he was here in Tampa, like Davis Island became like the go-to place. Granted, because he was at Jeter's house, but good Lord, once that started coming out, it was like relentless. They wouldn't stop. So,
no comment, Angel. No comment.
That's all right. But no, listen, obviously he went to Michigan, and we
No comment, Angel. No comment.
uh, going into coming from Michigan,
You read me well. That was good, Angel. You go to transition. That was good. You and I are going to work well together.
Oh yeah, that's what we end up doing here. But now, listen, there wasn't much talk about him. Obviously, like during the combine or anything else, like really much of no one heard about him until he got to New England. And then obviously when Bledsoe went down and became a whole different thing, I thought the roast was actually fantastic the way Drew had handled it. But Tom wasn't a household name, truthfully, and we've never seen a quarterback going that late in the draft to then become a 7-time Super Bowl champion. So what was it like with him out there in Michigan prior to even getting the call to go out for the NFL draft?
So it's funny that you bring that up. So, he's getting ready for the draft, and I interned at the draft in New York City. I was living in New York at the time. And Tommy, he's talked about this. He thought the Giants were a team that liked him, which is crazy because he learned how to play quarterback watching a John Elway VHS video, which was made by Jim Fossil, who was John Elway's offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Stanford. And Tommy's talked about this. He ruined the tape. He watched it so much because he's a meticulous studier. So the Giants are one of the teams. I forget who some of the other teams were, but he thought the Giants were really interested in him. And obviously they didn't draft him. I think that's when they got Kerry Collins. They had traded for acquired Kerry Collins. You look at the other teams, you want me to show off and do the Brady Six for you? Sure, I can do it up to, okay, so let's do Mark Bulger, Chad Pennington, Giovanni Camarsi, who I told Tommy on draft day. I saw him play at Hofstra. I told Tommy Gio was good. T. Martin, Chris Redmond, and Spurgeon Wynn.
Oh, man. Wow.
I just did that off the top of my head, by the way.
Very nice.
Tommy can name them all and all their stats. I'm kidding.
No, it's just, it was interesting to me because, again, no one.
Angel, the part of that is forever. Tommy never lost to any of them until he lost to Chad Pennington. And I think it was on my birthday weekend. He lost to Chad Pennington in New England in 2006, I believe.
Well,
he never lost to any of those guys. And I think it was to Pennington in 2006.
Did he ever mention, Jay, like if someone gave him the nod for a coaching position, would he ever decide to take it? Or I know the broadcast.
No, he couldn't. No. He could never coach because he's too. You have to be wired like him, and this is why he and I work. Because I was with him from the beginning,
right?
And I know this is nuts. He dates supermodels. He's got more money than God. And I have my money is closer to a dog, not God. I know how he thinks and prepares and trains. And we're seeing with the TV, the segments are awesome. After his games, when he goes on with Gronk and Strahan and Howie and everybody, it's awesome. Because he relaxes with Gronk. Strahan's one of his mentors. Everybody loves Howie Long, Jimmy Johnson, Jay Glazer, all those guys, Kirk. It's just he's in a good situation. But Tom's expectations in what players are.
Right.
Remember, he was in the league almost 25 years. Mm-hmm. What his dealing was with back in the day when you had a fullback and tight ends who could block, not all this spread and 3-by-1 and different things in the game. The game has changed. And Tom is so driven and nuts. Most great players aren't great coaches. Larry Bird was an exception. Pat Riley was a good player. Doug Collins was a good player, but there's very few. Mike Ditka was a great player and was a really good coach, but he didn't win without Buddy Ryan. I hate to say that, but he never won without Buddy Ryan. I can't think of another great coach who was a really good player. Most of the guys like Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Belichick, Mike Tomlin, Jim was good. Coach Harbaugh was a good player. His brother wasn't. Who else am I missing? But there's a lot of Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell was a good player.
Yeah.
And he kind of thinks like a player, relates to players. That's one of his strengths. But How do you think Tom would handle a guy saying, "Hey, coach, I can't make film today. I got to go to a video shoot."
Yeah, I don't see Tom saying that. Okay, go ahead and do so. Just like I don't know how in the world they
So,
let Aaron Rodgers get away with it.
oh well, that's why he hasn't won anything in about 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
And realize I tell people this all the time. When Tom and the Buccaneers, Mike Evans, and all the guys, the 2020 Super Bowl champion team went into Green Bay and eliminated the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Championship, that was the end of Aaron Rodgers' competitive career. Tommy murdered him and ended him. That was the end of him. He'll never win anything again. He broke him mentally, ended him. It was over. When they went in there and won that game, they were done. And Aaron Rodgers is a great example because football isn't a priority in his life. And I'm not asking it to be number one,
Right.
but like in the top two or three. Like you have guys like Matthew Stafford who's out there getting his ass kicked every week. He competes. Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen. Did you see that hit Josh Allen took on the trick play last night? He went back in the game. I mean, and they were getting their asses kicked, and they ended up pulling him, and they put Trubisky in, and they pulled Lamar too. But you gotta love the game, and the level of competitiveness. There's a certain standard of level that is required to be in the NFL, but the great players are elevated up here. I always talk to Kathy about this because she's a huge 49ers fan. Jerry Rice running a hill. Walter Payton did the exact same thing with Chicago. That's the two best players in my life to play those positions. You think Barry Sanders, and I hate to do this to Michigan, but Barry Sanders is one of my whipping boys. Barry Sanders did love football, and that's why his career is what it was. Guys that love football, it comes off in terms of team. Say what you want about Brett Favre.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I tell people this all the time. I would take Brett Favre every day and twice on Sunday over Aaron Rodgers. I'd also take Bart Starr over Aaron Rodgers, but that's a whole other story. But I think when you love football, the Joe Montanas, the Steve Youngs, those type of guys, Steve Young had to be told he can't play anymore. He's got brain damage. Kurt Warner, same thing. So many Drew Brees playing I'm a big Drew Brees detractor, but he played with no shoulder.
Yep.
And Tom retired his ass too, but so that's what you've got to do. Cam Newton's another one. People misread Cam Newton because he was bad with the media. Cam Newton, basically the size of Michael Strahan playing quarterback, and then NFL was a freak, and he was incredible. Team went 15-1. He got to the Super Bowl. He got his ass kicked by a really good Denver team. Who also kicked Tommy's ass.
Yep.
So I mean, it's like. People don't understand the requirement it takes in the commitment. And if you're not fully committed, you're not going to help you. And that's one of the things, one of the problems with the 49ers right now. And I've been telling Kathy this the whole summer. They should have traded Ayuk because football is not important to him. Getting paid and being in social media is more important. And he hasn't played well. And they've had a lot of injuries, that opportunities. The Jennings kid has stepped up. Kittle's out. Debo's out. Christian McCaffrey's out, and Purdy's still up there elevating, and Jordan Mason and the defense are picking it up. But Ayuk, you don't even notice him. You command money and look at me, I'm the guy, and then you don't go play. The Mike Evanses of the world, who's just a great guy, great player, shuts up in place, win or lose, he's at his locker, he's a leader in the community, kind of like how Larry Fitzgerald was. And everybody makes fun of Gronk, big dummy. You know what? On Sundays, Gronk brought it. Gronk blocked, caught, played hurt. The guy played in the friggin' Super Bowl with a broken ankle in 2011. He blocked Haloti Nada, Terrell Suggs. He took on everybody. And that guy was a dude. And anybody who thinks Travis Kelce's even in his realm is out of their friggin' mind. By the way, Travis Kelce ain't even the best tight end in the history of the Chiefs. Tony Gonzalez is. And that's not even close. Tony Gonzalez, I think Tony Gonzalez is like fifth all time in catches in the entire league. Look it up.
Nope, that's true.
I mean, Tony Gonzalez. Tommy used to play basketball with Tony. They're from part of California together. So I love Tony Gonzalez. Tony Gonzalez is a good blocker. Travis Kelce couldn't block the son.
Well, because, to me, listen, everybody can have their own relationships. I get it. I understand.
No, he's a good player. By the way, he's also not as good as Shannon Sharp. I know Shannon Sharp says it's on TV. Shannon Sharp is a way better player than Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
By the way, he won everywhere he went. He won the Super Bowl, the Ravens, and Denver.
Well, you figured, There was a talks last year, which Travis talked about it. And I don't think anybody else, but he had mentioned that he perhaps was going to walk away from the game. Obviously, winning a Super Bowl, you have the chance.
He might be told to walk away if you've been watching him play lately.
Possibly, but that's it. I don't think Andy
He had
Reid
a good game yesterday. He had a good game yesterday, though. No, listen, he's a really good receiving tight end. But I would take Jimmy Graham over him. I would take Tony Gonzalez over him. I would take Antonio Gates over him. He's good, but he also plays with Pat Mahomes. I mean, hello. I mean, there's another guy that doesn't get talked about. There was Gronk before Gronk on the Patriots with Drew Bledsoe, Ben Coates. Ben Coates was awesome, and he could block. But, you go back, there were specialized guys like, Jay Novacek, Kellen Winslow Sr., Ozzie Newsome was awesome. He could block. In the 70s, you got my man Russ Francis, rest in peace. He died recently within the last year. Dave Casper, who was awesome. Jackie Smith, who got famous for a big drop in the Super Bowl. He was incredible. But there's a lot. Ditko was awesome. But there's that position. I like guys that can block, like the Lions tonight, Laporta. There's George Kittle's the best tight end in the league. I just got Kathy points for saying that. But he's awesome. He can block, and he can catch, and he's hilarious. He got the great Pizza Hut commercials. But, I mean, you can't block. It's not the same thing. It's like the difference between when you talk about the wide receivers,
right?
The outside guys, and then the slot guys like Julian Edelman and Wes Welker, and the smaller slot guys. The Leandon Robinson guy on the Giants who caught like 9 balls out for 80 yards. It's completely different. Like what Godwin does is different than what Mike Evans does, and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. So you got to understand the role on the team and what they do.
There's a lot of throwback names he threw out there, which is really good. Walter Payton, God bless him, God rest him.
Was my hero growing up. He started games at quarterback for the Bears.
Did he really?
Go back and look that up. Follow Jared on social media. His son Jared's awesome. He had to go in and play quarterback in a couple playoff games when guys got hurt. When Jim McMahon and Jeff Fuller. I mean, not Jeff Fuller, Steve Fuller. And Steve Fuller is famous for his contribution to the history of the NFL. If you know who Steve Fuller is. Mm-hmm. Steve Fuller was do you know why he's famous?
Not entirely.
It involves the 49ers.
Okay.
So if you remember back in the day, coaches would do the in-person scouting. So Bill Walsh goes to scout Steve Fuller, the Clemson quarterback, at his what was he calling of his pro day? They're scouting Joe Montana, Phil Simms, and a couple other guys. They draft the quarterback. They want to draft the quarterback. And they call Steve Fuller's house. Steve Fuller answers. Steve Fuller's not there. His roommate answers the phone, and this roommate was a wide receiver at Clemson who didn't catch 50 balls in college. This guy volunteered to go catch passes at his pro day, and ultimately Bill Walsh liked this player and ended up drafting him. You know who that was?
Who's that?
Dwight Clark, the catch.
Huh.
The catch, Dwight Clark.
Interesting.
True story. By the way, it's funny. They were just talking about Tommy. Tommy idolized Dwight Clark. He famously snuck out of his dental orthodontist appointment to go meet Dwight Clark in the hall because Dwight Clark and he had the same orthodontist in San Francisco. So Tommy's getting ready to get drafted, and Cleveland told him they were going to draft him, and Dwight Clark was the GM, and they drafted Spurgeon Wynn instead. Spurgeon Wynn sounds like a bad Austin Powers villain. I mean, it doesn't sound like an NFL quarterback or James Bond or whatever. But yeah, That's a famous story. Tommy's told that story. That Dwight Clark, he told him in a draft, they took Spurgeon Wynn instead.
Wow.
I don't think that worked out really well.
Nah, it really didn't. It really didn't. It would have been house. I know it's two different, obviously, way two different spectrums. But NFC Central, NFC South. If Tom would have went with the Bears. Would the Bears have walked?
You're talking about when he left the Patriots.
Yeah, when he left the Patriots.
Okay.
So let's just say if he would have, because he said he was real close to the Bears. Supposedly the Bears were going to offer him only $10 million. I don't.
Because they didn't have money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's in the notes if you didn't see it when Tommy held the notes out. That was the first thing he had. He did the money, the contracts, and all the deals.
right. But to me, would the Bears would they have had the same success as far as winning a Super Bowl the way the Bucks did? I
No,
think
because let me explain to you why. And you're seeing it right now with Caleb Williams.
right.
It's a defensive environment and structure of their team. Certain organizations have a mentality. Remember when Tommy went to the Buccaneers? They had Coach Arians. He knew Jason Light, who used to
Mhm.
work for the Patriots. He's the GM, one of the best drafters in the sport, and one of Tommy's roommate, college teammates, John Spytek, is the assistant GM. He'll probably end up being a GM soon or get elevated by the Bucks. And he's there, and there's a whole bunch of other guys. Larry Foote's down there, one of Tommy's teammates, one of the linebackers. And it was the right time, the right position. People, both Tommy, Gronk, and Dana White have talked about the Raiders thing that Gruden stopped. That's another one. If you know that story, Tommy and Gronk were going to go to the Raiders, and Gruden stopped it. And they talked about this on Gronk talked about with Dana White on some podcast. You can look this up. And that's Tommy obviously has business dealings and so forth in Vegas, and
Right.
he's got in dealings with Dana White and Ultimate Fighting and a couple hotels and other things. But there's other teams. I'm not going to go into them all, but there were about five. The reports you saw in the media weren't true, and the 49ers stuff has been out there too publicly. Kyle Shanahan didn't want that, and that's happened like I think twice. And that's out there. And the karma gods got involved and sent them Jimmy Garoppolo. And God Almighty is their heaven and earth for that one. But obviously they're in a good position with Purdy now. And the story out there last year, John Lynch and them talked to Purdy, and Purdy would have been fine backing Tommy up. So,
Yeah.
Clearly Purdy's got that Iowa State education has really worked out good. They're a smart kid. But yeah, but obviously that's Tommy's team growing up, and they're good. And if you remember, Tommy's last season, we went up there and got our asses kicked by them, the 49ers. And he was talking to Fred Warner and a lot of different guys. That was funny because, speaking to Kathy, she's a huge 49ers fan. And she didn't know what to say to me in the middle of that game to text me
Right.
because her team is destroying, and she loves Tom, obviously. And they're killing Tom, and they're killing me, and she doesn't know what I'm doing. And I just messaged her. I texted her. I said, "Hey, let's go Mets." So it was just to let her know I was alive. And listen, I was with Tom so long. We won 7 Super Bowls, but to me, I know this sounds nuts, but I'm more proud how we handled losing 3 Super Bowls. 2 to friggin' Gomer Pyle, and then Nick effing Foles, and that's your fault, Angel. But losing in those 3 games that he lost were pretty rough. They're all different, and the games you win. I tell people this. You introduce Tom, he's the greatest, and all that. I don't know if Tom's the greatest. I know he had the greatest career, and that's what matters, I think. But to win a Super Bowl is incredibly hard. Just look at Tommy's career. He played in 10 Super Bowls. He could easily be 9-1 or 1-9. About the only game they won fairly convincingly was the first Eagles Super Bowl against you guys. They were in pretty much control of that game at the end of the game.
Yeah.
You won 2 games of the first 3 with Adams kicks. Pete Carroll got brain damage at the end of 2014 with Marshawn Lynch and Russell Wilson. By the way, apparently Russell Wilson can't audible. I'd like to make fun of Russell. But then the Atlanta game, which, speaking of Kyle Shanahan, brain damage again, 28-3, and he decides, let's throw the ball. I think he was trying to get Matt Ryan the MVP. And, obviously the 2018 game was weird. That wasn't our best team. We just got hot and got in there. And our defensive coaches and our players and staff and scouts did a great job in Coach McVay and kind of exposed Jared Goff.
Mhm.
And he's kind of pre-programmed. I joked the Lions somehow found the one dumb guy from Cal to be their quarterback, Goff. It's hard. And then obviously in 20, we destroyed the Chiefs. But let's be perfectly honest with you, Mahomes didn't have any offensive lineman guys in that game. And we really matched up well with that team. We played them earlier in the year and kind of figured them out mid-game. And Tom Old, Coach Spagnuolo, who's like a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator, we did a really, really good job. The team played really well. And Coach Bowles, who's transitioned great to be the Bucs coach, all week, because we studied hard for that game. Tommy and I kept saying over and over again, because Coach Bowles loves the blitz.
Right.
In order to beat this team, he can't blitz. And he didn't blitz like 10% of the time because the coverage was working and the O-line was in such disarray that they couldn't hold up. And Mahomes, I gained more respect for him taking the ass whipping. I mentioned that when you lose this game, you learn a lot about people and how you handle defeat and adversity. And Mahomes didn't stop competing. He kept running around. He was amazing. Like Josh Allen last night. I mean, they couldn't tackle Derrick Henry with an M16, and he was out there competing. Hey, I mean, by the way, you think Jerry Jones should have paid Derrick Henry?
Sure. Yep. Yeah. Yep. That's gonna be a
Now
conversation.
you guys paid Barkley. He's a different player, and he's been great for you.
Yeah.
So you addressed the position, but I mean, I had King Henry going to the Cowboys, and and Jerry draws out these deals with Dak and my man 88 there, CD Lamb. That's my other hookster. That's Deborah chatting in.
Nice.
She's like my holistics and mind coach.
Okay.
I don't know if she should take credit for that because my mind is gone. But but it's no, it's pretty crazy when you look at this. But yeah, obviously pretty good career. Not bad for pick 199. And as Tommy said to Mr. Kraft the first time met him, best decision they ever made. Now, we won't talk about, March 17, 2022.
Right.
I mean, 2020 when they let him go, and they're still
Yeah.
paying for that. So, see, Deborah's liking what I said. But but no, it was a lot of fun. Obviously, he's transitioned really well. He was great in the game the other day. And if you saw, he did the LFG player of the game, and he gave it to Baker
Sure did.
after the game. And Baker, listen, and I'm going to use my line of the year. And Pete and all the other New England friends of mine, Patriots fans, are not going to like what I'm about to say. The Buccaneers replaced Tom Brady better than the Patriots did.
Ooh.
That's both true, factual, and funny.
True.
At the same time.
Three good points.
It's amazing. It's amazing when you think about it. And what a job by the Bucs and their staff bringing Baker in. I think there was 14.
Oh yeah.
There's 14, right?
Yep.
And God knows the Carolina Panthers sure know what they're doing.
Yeah, really.
But yeah.
Deborah,
it's like a halfway house.
Yeah. No, Deborah, thank you very much. By the way, she just gasped on what you said there. So about Baker Mayfield. Listen, Baker, it's funny because
it's funny you bring it up because that's Kathy's oldest son, Zach, is a huge Oklahoma fan. So they both love Baker Mayfield. And he's just not my cup of tea normally.
Right.
I don't like loud, look at me type quarterbacks, attention seeking guys. I'm a Bill Parcells guy. I don't like celebrity quarterbacks. I love Phil Simms. I love Bledsoe.
Right.
And but I think in certain environments, in certain places, his act works. And on Tampa, where they don't have a lot of loud guys, because it's like Mike Evans' team. And Mike Evans, Vita Vea, and Tristan Wirfs are the three guys.
Mm-hmm.
And Levante David. So those four guys kind of police the room. So he's allowed to just be him. And he's not a jerk. He's not Aaron Rodgers. Football is important to him. And I think, and it is good. But it's fun to see a lot of these new guard guys. I love Josh Allen, and so does Tommy. Obviously, Mahomes. Jaden Daniels, I watched yesterday. Incredible. Joe Burrow. What's going on with Trevor Lawrence, but I don't know there. But, Brock Purdy's another one. I think Brock Purdy doesn't get talked about enough. Kyler Murray needs offensive line help. He was getting murdered yesterday. But I just think it's fun to see so many good players. The rules changes have helped quarterbacks, the 7-on-7s, the way the game is. Players are throwing the ball more. The blocking fullback is kind of out of the game. Kyle Juszczyk is about it on the 49ers. There aren't very many tight ends that can block. I mentioned George Kittle. But it's hard. It's easier for the quarterbacks because of more opportunities in the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
But you saw this in the Georgia-Alabama game over the weekend. No lead is safe because you can't hit the quarterback.
Right.
You can't hit the receivers. And it's the hardest thing to do in football. People don't understand this is rush the passer, because you can be a great pass rusher. Like a definition of a great pass rusher in the NFL is like 16 to 17 sacks, right? Well, that's one a game, right?
Right.
So that means like suppose the offense runs 60 plays. Like we'll watch Aiden tonight in the Lions game, 97, Michigan man out there, and he'll be killing the offensive lineman and maybe get to the quarterback twice. And it's hard to do. It's mentally challenging. You got to get up and do it again. Get up and do it again. Try to start and stop, and chase a little athletic guy around with 10 other guys blocking for him. So it's really hard to do, and it's crazy when you think about it out there. And when you think about how much that's why you're seeing all these different comebacks and so forth. Wisconsin had a big lead on USC. They blew it. And, it's one of the funny things. The tradition, like Angel, you and I are old enough to remember when teams like Nebraska and Wisconsin were power, run it down your throat. And now they're even throwing the ball. Wisconsin's running the air raid.
Yeah.
Nebraska's throwing with Dom Riola's son. And there's like Michigan's one of the few teams left that really does power and run the ball. I mean, you'll get the service academies and some other Utah's like that too. Utah's run heavy, but it hurts you when you're having a lead. That's why the Ravens are so hard to play, because how do you simulate even before they had King Henry? How do you prepare to play Lamar Jackson?
Correct.
It's like last year we had such a huge advantage, Michigan, when we had to go play Alabama, because we had our Jordan Milroe guy, Alex Orji. So Alex Orji, who's now our quarterback, is a big, strong kid. He looks like a defensive end, and he can play quarterback. And obviously, seeing how good Milroe is now, and hopefully Alex projects that way too. But, it is what it is. It's hard to do that. The Mets are down 3-0, by the way, in the 8th.
Yeah.
So, congratulations to the Braves. They cheated and embarrassed the sport. I hope Chris Sale's ready to pitch the next game, which will be tomorrow. I'm sure he'll be so healthy to go tomorrow.
I'm quite sure.
I'm actually not sure.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll pitch tomorrow?
Doubt it. Unless, if it's this,
I wonder if they'll even put him on the roster, because I'm hearing things. If he didn't pitch today in this game, Angel, particularly after what we did to their bullpen.
Yeah. No.
Now the Mets are contributing to their own demise by I think I'm pitching right now. But they sat. Alonso and a couple other guys played. Pete played 162 games, by the way.
Right.
But it's amazing when you look at it. That they did this, and what's happening to the Diamondbacks is really embarrassing. Oh, okay, it's Adam Ottavino's pitching, and I didn't see you pitch earlier. I'm looking right now. But yeah. Oh, Brazabon came in. And pitched. Lucchesi did a good job. Brazabon came in and pitched. He pitched in the first game too.
The run that the Diamondbacks made last season, I think a lot of us didn't even see that coming, how close they had gotten once again to winning another World Series.
Yeah, Corbin Carroll and all those guys. Yeah, that was a good team. They're like the best. They're like the best offensive team in the National League. People don't know that. They're better than the Dodgers, which is amazing when you think about their team. Because obviously the Dodgers, they probably have the 3 best hitters I can remember together, and Mookie Betts, Freeman, and Ohtani.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even come up with a comparison for that. And remember, I grew up watching Keith Hernandez, Gary Carter, and Darryl Strawberry in order. That was a
Right.
pretty good group in the 80s. Gary's in the Hall of Fame. Rest in peace. God bless him. Keith should be in the Hall of Fame. And Darryl had the training habits of me, so he's not in the Hall of Fame. So women, drugs, and booze. You can do one of the three, not all three. And by the way, Darryl looks awesome. If you haven't seen him, he looks amazing. And obviously, we see Keith every night on the Mets broadcast, and he and Ron Darling and Gary Cohen today were so happy when we won that game because that team. Listen, I live in the Detroit area. And the Tigers, over the last 40 games or so, they went like 30-10 to make the playoffs. But the exact opposite, the Twins like 10-30, and they blew it. The Mets have won like 65 of 100 to do what they did today. And they were like the third last team in all of baseball at the end of May. And the manager said, hey, we got a good team, we got good players. The Grimace thing happened, and all the other stuff happened with our team. And we just took off. And, God bless the Braves and all their injuries because they got a ton of dudes out. And under normal circumstances, we wouldn't be able to catch them, but that's not our fault. We've had injuries too. Our Jeff McNeil is an all-star player for us and batting champion for a couple of years. He's out with a broken wrist. Senga, our ace pitcher, pitched 6 innings all year. We are where we are. You guys have had injuries too on the Phillies.
Yep.
And obviously Schwarber and Harper missed time, and I think Trey Turner, and a lot of your dudes. But our division is insane. If the Marlins ever get their heads out of their ass and get together, and the Nationals, I think, are trending the right way. Rizzo does a good job there with their trades. They've done well replenishing their team. But, we have Steve Cohen, and you have Dave Dombrowski, so I think the Braves are not going to be alone.
I don't think
But
so.
no, and I feel bad for the Diamondbacks. But again, the Braves are going to have to live with this. They used a natural disaster to cheat their way to make the playoffs. And I don't care what people think that I said that. It's reality. They manipulated the rules to pitch Spencer twice against us because he kicked our ass twice. But the problem was he doesn't go 9, and we
Right.
kicked their bullpen's ass. And by the way, and I said this even before Sale didn't start. Sale was hurt. They'd use this, the strategy, to do what they did. By the way, the Tigers are trying to limit screwball pitching, but they didn't do this. Last week, they moved the game up when they had rain coming, and they got the game in. That happens all the time. You go to college baseball like you and I do. My buddy was the Michigan coach. He's now the Clemson coach. You deal with weather all the time. When you're the home team, you control it. And the Braves manipulated it to try to screw us. And they screwed the Diamondbacks. And Rob Manfred likes Steve Cohen's money, but he doesn't like what Steve Cohen's money does to his sport. And it's garbage what they did. I'm so glad. I don't care if the Braves make the playoffs or not. But what we did to them today, they tried to screw us, and we extinguished all these ghosts of the Braves. And I don't care who's out, who's hurt, who cares? But we beat them, and it's one of the best wins in the history of the Mets, and I've seen some good ones. Obviously, 86 and 88. The 2015 team was great. And, we beat the great Dodgers team with Greinke and Kershaw. And, 1988 was a big blow because that was a really good team.
Mm-hmm.
And just too much of Kurt Gibson and Oral Hershiser. And it's my beginning to hate Michigan State because of Kurt Gibson. So it is what it is.
No, we're going to the break. When we come back, I want to talk about 2 little things before we get into the NFL. Is that one is the White Sox and what they put out as a statement yesterday, which I think is beyond embarrassing the way you put it out there. But they
So my U of M buddy is their GM, Chris Getz.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, you didn't know that. Yeah. Chris is their GM.
We'll get into that, and also too about this whole theory about the pitchers now only going up to the 6th inning. Which come on, it just that really kind of drives.
Okay, so this is funny you bring this up. We'll have Wayne Welton on. He used to be one of the coaches here in Michigan, and our mutual friend is the pitching coach for the Detroit Tigers, Chris Fetter. And if you see how he handles pitchers, and he used to work for the Dodgers and the Angels and other teams, and how he handles pitchers. One of his really good buddies is the Mets pitching coach, Jeremy Hefner. So, and if you see, everybody's different. We'll talk about this. I'm glad you brought this up. Let's go to the break and we'll talk about this. And obviously, going to do NFL and college football.
Yippers, because it got really interesting over the weekend, especially yesterday. Some of the teams, so I'm pretty sure Vegas has got to be loving life because this year.
Jets, Jets. Oh,
Yeah, I can't stand them. Oh, I can't freaking stand them.
Yes.
Even though I picked those clowns, but whatever. All right. Well,
I picked them to be good.
I just picked them because I wanted to go with Denver. I'm like, you know what? The Jets will probably end up coming back to win this game if anything, just the way they played from the week before. I should have went with Denver anyways, but it freaking stinks. They're just.
Oh, I know. So go just before we go to break. Joey B, great call on Rusty Staub. One of Keith Hernandez's best buddies, and he used to have Rusty's, the restaurant in New York City. And Rusty was big with the firemen and the police families, even before 9/11. That was his charity. And Keith has kind of got involved. David Wright did a lot with it too. So that was Rusty's charity was before 9/11, the families of the firemen and cops when they die. What happens? He would do charities for that. And that was, look it up. That was Rusty's charity. Just a wonderful man and a great player. Oh my God, was he good. If he played in the era of the DH, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. His numbers are great anyways, hitting. But he played in the wrong era, but man, was he good. Legrand Orange.
Joey B says, Angel's been wearing a Broncos hat all day, LOL. Angel Martinez, the most pissed off Eagles fan on the face of the earth today. Yeah, well, you know.
Why are you wearing a Broncos hat, by the way? Yeah.
Because, number one, I said it before. Matter of fact, after the break, I'll play what Friday talked about.
Okay, let's go to break.
Yeah, we'll go to it. So you guys, we'll talk about it after the break. You guys are listening to Beavs World, the broadcast premiere day of Beavs World here with Jay. So if you guys have tuned in for the first time today, thank you for joining us here on the Coastal Sports Network. But after the break, we'll get into NFL, White Sox, some other stuff. Who knows? We'll get into a little bit of everything. So thank you all for tuning in. You are listening to Beavs World with Jay on Sports Radio 102.9 from The Game. We will be right back.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Chicken and Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our second location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak, our Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu.
Hey guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it gardenia. It's pronounced Chardonnay.
Bill Castanetti Sports World in Saugus, Mass. is New England's place to buy or sell the finest in sports memorabilia. For over 35 years, Sports World has offered the finest in sports collectibles. Don't miss the return of the legend, former Bruins goalie Tim Thomas. Tim will be at Sports World on Saturday, October 5th from noon until 2 p.m. Tim will be signing and taking photos. Prices vary, so don't miss this awesome event. Saturday, October 5th at Sports World, 184 Broadway in Saugus, Massachusetts. Call 781-233-7222 for more information. Sports World in Saugus. Be there.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontp.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class, let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
All right, welcome back. In case you guys have not figured out, it is the new debut of Beavs World with Jay here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game on the Coastal Sports Network.
Angel.
Yes, sir?
Angel, we got to congratulate the Atlanta Braves for making the playoffs.
Yeah, no thanks. No thanks. No, I'm good. Yeah. Yeah.
You're good, but they're not. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, no. Listen, by the way, welcome back. Welcome back to the Coastal Sports Network, Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game with Jay here. New show debut with Beavs World. You guys can catch us on Mondays and Wednesday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. right after Beavs World is Lloyd Vance's Insider Football. That is tonight from 8 to 9:15. And then on Wednesday nights after Beavs World, you guys can listen in and watch Two Talking Hoops from 8 to 9 p.m. So Monday, Wednesdays are a long stretch here at Coastal Sports Network. So don't forget, you guys can also download the app two different ways. One is you can visit sr1029thegame.com. And also up on your screen, it's different. Obviously, if you're watching, can you maybe sometimes do things at once? But the QR code is up there so you guys can watch the replay later on and then throw it up there and download the app. So therefore, you guys will not miss any of the digital sports programming here on the all digital sports platform, which is the Coastal Sports Network. Of course, all brought to you by Brasserie South that had started everything. And I thank Jay for coming on as, we go into the break. We come to find out that obviously Atlanta wins. So now we know it's going to be the Mets in Milwaukee at 5:32, and then Atlanta at San Diego at 8:38. So the National League Wild Card Series, that's what's up there.
Yeah, so the Braves benefited by cheating twice. They get the late game too.
They sure do. They sure do.
So we beat them, but
Correct.
yeah, no. God bless America. Thanks, Rob Manfred. Resign, would you please?
Which he won't. That's the worst part.
When you make Bud Selig look good, you're really bad here.
That is true. Because Bud Selig was bad. But Manfred.
What do you mean? Wait a minute, Angel. What do you mean? There's steroids? Wait a minute. Well, is that Barry Bonds? Oh wow, he got big. Look. Oh Jesus, look at that ball he just hit. I mean, please, come on, man.
Yeah. Well, I like how, who was it, Palmero, who said at first he didn't do it. Then he goes down to Congress and says that maybe, I think I had a forgetful moment. And then it came back and I remembered that I did do steroids and it's bad. Steroids bad. I'm good. Come on, man. There's so many asterisks that need to be done in baseball, whatever. And some people love it because they see you get a ton more dingers into outer space, but it happens. By the way, Joey B says Jay is more pissed than Angel. The Brave situation, though, he's exactly right.
And by the way, it's even before the Chris Sale thing happened today.
Mm-hmm.
My stance was the same. I thought Sale was going to pitch this game. He's really hurt, and he's fatigued or not right. That's why they did this. And I wish I wish I could make this up, but I'm not. That's what happened. And they used a natural disaster to make the playoffs. And by the way, they could have beat us last week, and we wouldn't have this problem. The Diamondbacks would be in the playoffs. I don't know. I don't see the future, but I know what they did, and there was plan and operation by it. And they clearly viewed that first game as a party. That's why their closer was in the game in the 8th inning. And then, we took the next game off because we did our job and they had to do their job. And, Chris Sale didn't pitch. And let's see who pitches tomorrow and how long he can throw. But again, I use the Tigers example. There's been other examples where you change, you control your game. It's not like, did they know Hurricane Helene was coming? Of course they did. Just garbage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah, Joey, that's a great thing. So if you understand, Coach Alford comes from Ohio State, the second best team in the Big Ten. So he was the running backs coach of Ohio State, and he has a previous relationship with Coach Moore and a couple of other coaches. He came, he's our running backs coach. Obviously, he's had tremendous impact on Khalil Mullings, who's assumed kind of the Son Haskins kind of a role. And Donovan is still in there. And Donovan has kind of been the change of pace guy, outside of when Blake was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the big national championship game on those two big runs against Washington. But I think it's helped. And I understand they've gotten some other running backs from Ohio and so forth. Obviously, our program recruits running backs because we're a very run-heavy team. This is part of the negative success with us and our quarterbacks. We all saw that David Portnoy is going to give $3 million to a quarterback to come to Michigan. The quarterback problem wasn't a problem until the Harbaugh thing with the NFL and his contract kind of came up, because we had J.J. McCarthy, who was a 5-star. Kate McNamara was a 4-star. We got Jaden Davis on the team, who's a big recruit now, a freshman. Before that, Shea Patterson was a 5-star. And I don't count any of the other guys before that. They're all portal guys. And the gym didn't really recruit guys. But I think Sharon's done a great job. He's got the Brady Hart kid was here this weekend. He's a big recruit. He's from your neck of the woods, Angel, down there in Florida. So I think we'll be fine at quarterback. We had a pretty good run here the last 3 years, won the national championship, lost to an historic Georgia team in one of the most underrated, worst losses in the history of Michigan football. We somehow lost to a TCU game. If we played them again, we'd probably beat them 75-20. We somehow lost to them when we played them. But we had a great run here, and I think we'll be fine. Michigan recruits itself. Having Coach Alford he's put a lot of pro guys in the NFL is going to help, obviously, and having recruiting is a huge part, obviously, of what we do now. And having that type of level guy here is a big deal.
Speaking of Colorado, where Joey resides right now, and looking at Colorado yesterday in Orlando, Saturday, because yesterday was Sunday, but game day Saturday. You know, and I know people have to, I guess, kind of tippy toe, which doesn't make any sense to me when it comes to Deion Sanders, because
Yeah.
you have to be careful how you say it, how you question it, how you word it, blah blah blah. And then they go down to Orlando and
They
decide,
played great.
yeah,
They played great.
they did. And then according to Coach Sanders, he said that he had to basically reset and do things the way Saban used to. Which,
Did
hey,
you hear about what he did? I mean, he
no,
yelled. He got tough on them.
for
He
the first
really,
time.
yeah, he went tough. He went bad, good cop, bad cop on him basically.
But
And
isn't it the opposite though that he keeps talking about that he will never go hard on his guys?
well, sometimes Randy Johnson has to throw a change up, Angel.
Yeah.
You know,
Every once in a while.
one of these shows will come and go. Hi, I'm Jay. We're here to talk about football. No, but Larry Limprist. Hi, how you doing? But so it's just, it's believe it or not, and I use this analogy all the time because the great Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue.
Right.
You can't be all the time. You can't. You have to have some level. And believe it or not, I do. I joke. I don't have an off switch. I kind of do. I do. I have my limits. I'm almost 53. You would have loved me when I was 25, Angel. But you just have to know when to push and when to pull and when to hug them and love them. And I was here with Gary Moeller and Lloyd Carr, and obviously Coach Harbaugh had success, and but Coach Carr was really good. Coach Carr would do hey, you want to transfer? He did this with Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy talked about transferring. Charles Woodson, that's a famous story. Marcus Ray, Braylon Edwards, a whole bunch of guys who are great players here. And you either embrace it. Basically the message is Michigan is bigger than you. I mean, you either want to be here or you don't. And what Prime probably did is he extend, listen, you guys think you're all so good. I'm friggin' Deion Sanders. I can do whatever the hell I want. What the hell are you going to do? And my son's good and Travis is good. What are you clowns going to do? They're all getting drafted. I'm in the Hall of Fame. I'm in more Hall of Fames than the Beatles. I don't need you guys. I can do whatever I want. So do you want to listen to me and win, or do you want to keep doing this grab ass shit? How'd I do? That was my Deion.
That was good.
But no, it's when you want to get somebody's attention, come at them. I joked with the Randy Johnson, the change-up thing.
Right.
Give them something different to think about. It's like what you see in a football game. A team keeps running the ball to the right and all their fullbacks and their tight ends are over there. Then you throw out of it off a play action. Stuff like that. But no, it's a lot of fun. But no, I was impressed by Prime. And it was a good win. Good win. Now, they have to make a bowl game. That's what they got to do. And you saw some other games. Arizona come back on Utah.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned USC really showing up and hammering Wisconsin in the second half. Obviously, the Georgia-Alabama game where we talked about what a great play by the 17-year-old kid on Alabama on the run and catch there in the 50-50 ball. But that's the game now. It's he liked me the grab ass. Hi, how you doing? So no, here's the thing. You need to know your players and you don't need to tell me. I know when the game is, but you got to get the other guys with me. And there's certain people that do that, and they know, who it is, and when it's time to go. And it just you have it or you don't. You got to pup. Puppies usually bite when they're young. If they don't, it's usually what's going to happen.
Right.
In personalities, you can have guys like me, and just tell me when the game is, and we'll be there. And then you can have guys that need to be pushed by people like me, and we'll have a couple of my buddies on I grew up with and coaches and so forth. But I was the guy the coaches would go to practice. Hey Jay, we're kind of punch somebody in the face. And that's what happens. Or do something in practice to, Rob Rouser. I wasn't the most talented guy. I wasn't the best player, but I would hope most of my teammates and friends will tell you I was a great teammate and a great part of your team. And how you just measure that. I was closer to Dennis Rodman than Larry Bird. Just use the basketball analogy there, but I understand.
Right.
But no, the grimy guys, Pete Rose closer than Derek Jeter, so and I think Derek Jeter is the closest thing to Pete Rose we've had, by the way, in like the last 30 years. But
Sure, good point.
just a winning player, and just it's what it is. But kids handle things differently. Um, I think most players that play for Prime respect him, and I mean he's done everything in the game, and I think he's learning on the job.
Mhm.
And the coaching job today, and I talked about this with Coach Harbaugh when he came back here. The job he came into in 14, 15, and 16 is completely different now with NIL and portal. I mean, we're seeing this with all these guys redshirting because they're not playing the UNLV thing and other, the USC nose guard redshirting and leaving. If you yell at a kid at practice, you can walk out and be gone. I mean, it's we had the Cade McNamara, JJ McCarthy thing here. Imagine the Tom Brady, Drew Henson thing here now.
Yeah.
NIL. I mean, famously, Urban Meyer told Joe Burrow he couldn't play. That's why Urban's on television. Yeah, me and Dennis have so much in common. Carmen Electra, there you go, baby. But no, I'm just using a blood and guts player who does things.
Right.
Winning player that wasn't the most talented, just came out and worked his ass off. Dennis Rodman is historically underrated. I love him as a player. Every team he was on was good, by the way.
But you bring up a great point though when it comes to coaching now compared to before, even without the NIL. It's just growing up. You and I growing up when we loved to play our sports. It was the way you were handled by the coach was different. Even if he got in your face, the big thing was he did it because he wanted to bring the best out of you. That was a big thing.
Yeah,
If
Bear
you
Bryant
took
type things. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you end up taking it personal, that was on you because his job or her job, depending on what team you end up playing, but their job was to get in your face to let you know what you're doing wrong. Here's how you can be better. And even some of the guys who were really good, it wasn't like the coach was any less on that person because they wanted to see more from them. But today, it's not the same. You can't go into someone's face and tell them, like, listen, you absolutely stunk. Because even using the word stunk, they have a big problem. Oh, hold on, I'm going to the dean. I don't like you use that word. That is an inappropriate word. It's just, there's nothing like the way it was when we were growing up. I think it's too soft. And I could be wrong, Jay, but it's way too soft today than what it was when we were growing up.
So the funniest thing is you bring this up, and the guy who gave me my famous nickname, the Beaver, Leave It to Beaver, is Peter Como, who ended up being my wide receiver coach in high school. And without question, every day at practice, he could say to a sundial, you would hear, Beaver, learn your plays, Beaver this, Beaver this, Beaver that. And we've talked about this back in the day, but I hated him when this is going on. It made me nuts every day. Every day we'd get in a fight. But he did it for a reason, because I was part of like one of the best teams ever in this from high school. Great group of wide receivers. He's going to yell at me. I was playing with Jerry Rice and Randy Moss. I was closer to Jerry Lewis than Jerry Rice. So he yelled at me, and he knew that was to get other people's attention. Then our defensive coordinator, who was my Pop Warner coach, Coach Arabino, taught me how to study film and so much. Everything I do today is based on him. He was tough, but he was great to me. And then, we had my head coach, Dick Collins, Hall of Famer. Pete talked about him, Rhode Island guy. And still a great guy for me, historically, always looked out for me, my best interests, helped me get to Michigan. But in all this, I talked about CPR. I'd go and talk to him, and he was the calming, comforting guy for me. So I had a nice little balancing act. And when you're 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, you're learning your foundation, how to deal with things and adjust. And you learn how to deal with adversity, and that was my background. I had a couple of guys who yelled at me, but I knew they loved me. And that's why I went back and I played hard. But that was my role in those teams. I played with historic guys. Guys just started at Michigan for 4 years and Maryland for 4 years. The guys went to Boston College and Arizona State and all these other guys. I blame my parents. I was born in the wrong era. But I was all these just great, great players. But it helped me do what I'm doing now and help me help Tommy and some of my other friends and different things, do what I'm doing now. I'm talking to you, obviously, Angel.
Joy B has a question. It says, Jay, January 3rd, will you be in Wrigley Field for the Michigan-Ohio State ice hockey game, and then Penn State versus Notre Dame, which is the first game?
Okay, so Joey, I love hockey. I love college hockey. I will not be, because look at that date. That's in the middle of football season.
Yeah.
So this is when college hockey season starts for me after the NFL season's over. NHL, if the Bruins are playing a backgammon tournament, I'm watching it. So I'm always watching NHL. I got ESPN Plus. I watch NESN. We got Ryan Johnson doing the games now that Jack Edwards is retired. And so it's Judd Surratt. I'm sorry, I got it backwards. Judd Surratt's going from radio to do TV, and Ryan Johnson is doing radio now. We used to have Dave Gosher, who's now the Vegas Knights broadcaster, has been there. I think they started. He's their TV guy. He was the Bruins announcer when they won the Cup. He was there forever. But no, I'm a hockey guy. I love hockey. That's going to be a great event at Wrigley Field. That's an historic place, a lot like Fenway. I went to the Bruins. Sorry to do this to you, Angel. The Bruins Flyers Fenway game where Marco Storm started overtime. It was a 2-1 game.
Yeah.
And I think Ronaldo and Sean Thornton got into a fight in that game. I was at that game. I was actually in the Green Monster seats. Don't ask how I got those. But I was sitting there. I was with my cousin. He got a backroom deal. But it was a lot of fun. But no, I recommend going any of these outdoor games. Go, and obviously, the whole hockey community with the Johnny and Matthew Goodrow thing is just an awful thing. It's going to be felt for a lot, probably the whole year. I mean, he's just loved throughout the game and played with Matthew Tkachuk and Lindholm and Calgary and was doing good on Blue Jackets. Crazy. I got about 5 U of M guys on the Blue Jackets. And Adam Fantilli, I believe, lived with Johnny last year. He won the Hobie 2 years ago in Michigan. And Adam, great, like a Mike McDonald type, really bigger, skilled kid. And Johnny's like my size. So just an awful tragedy in life. And, we were talking earlier about having a bad day. Our day isn't that bad. We didn't get run over on a bike at a stop by a drunk guy. So
and a drunk guy who doesn't care. That's
that's the other thing. Yeah. I don't think he's going to do. I don't think he's going to do really well in prison, Angel. I'm going to go out on a limb.
Yeah, I don't think so either because it was like no remorse. He was more upset that he had to wait to get out on Thursday.
Yeah. I had to stay here through Labor Day. I know. I saw it.
Yeah, it's Jesus. But I'm glad the NHL, they're going to honor both of their brothers on their on the sweaters, which is really good to see. The NHL has done so because they meant a lot to the game. So I don't understand people like you. I don't. For the life of me, I don't know why people have to get behind the wheel when they're drunk. Many times people say, "Oh, I haven't drunk that much," but you're slurring, you're moving back and forth. To me, and yet alone when they go to a bar somewhere, they already came in drunk, and then you're still serving them, which makes no sense whatsoever. Which to me, there's times where bars have to be held accountable for. If you notice someone came in staggering, mumbling, doing everything else in between, and you're still serving them, knowing that they came in drunk at your bar, to me, I'm sorry. You should end up either A, shut the doors down for 7 days and make you think about it, because if they lose, they kill someone, it should fall back on that bar. But I know they won't do it for whatever other reason. It won't do it. But how do you kill two people? And it's like, listen, just get me out of here because I'm just going to go back and do the same thing I did last night, except for this time I just watch out for bikes. It just makes no sense.
No, it's just a crazy situation. I agree with you on the drunk driving with Ubers and Lyft and
right.
It's just nuts. I mean, I don't drive. I get a bad eye and I don't drive. So, but it's I rarely drink. I didn't have a drink for about 7 years. I had a couple this weekend and one each, once social stuff. But I'm cool. But no, yeah. And Joey's writing up the $50 Uber. Yeah, $10,000 legal fees and. Each state's different on drunk driving. It's nuts what you think about it. But yeah, out here it's very hard. You got to do breathalyzers and everything. If you get caught, the penalties on your insurance and everything are crazy.
That's the way it is down here in Florida. Florida, your first one right out the gate between $22,000 to $25,000, which to me, Why? You
Well, I
can
carry that around, Angel. It's in my wallet. I mean, it's
yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like you have so many different places you can go to and everything else. And in the same way, if you can go. I mean, I've had friends they've gone bar hopping, but they get a hotel right where they're partying at, so none of
yeah,
them ever get in a car. And then the best part is normally they take their keys and hand it to whoever the sober person is going to
sure.
be for the night. And even that point, like I've been a sober driver, I can't tell you how many times before, and I enjoy it because there's been 2 times in my life that I've gotten drunk when I entered the military, when I got out. And that's because I was able to walk out from the military, thank God. But it just doesn't make any sense to me because honest to God, what's the point? You get drunk, you act stupid, and then you get behind the wheel for what? And then you take out someone's innocent life for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's just selfish. I mean, there's no other way to say it. It's just and inexcusable in today's society. I mean, I just don't understand it. It's really, and like you said, you got to look at the responsibility of the bars and the liquor and everything. It's just nuts.
It is.
Sad time.
Yep, it makes no sense. But as we're getting into, I'm not a huge fan of this whole double Monday night football games. I know Tennessee and Miami are playing right now, 13-29 the first, no score yet. I'm not of why do we have to do it now back to back weeks? And it seemed like it first started off in the beginning of the season. They had, way back, of course, we had the one game. Then as of recent,
Yep.
it was 2 games on Monday night. Now we're having back to back weeks with 2 Monday night games. And it might have even been Joey B. Someone earlier today on one of the earlier shows had stated that if you're going to do something like that, then have one that starts on the East Coast. And then 3 hours later, you have the one over there on the West Coast. But you got Tennessee, Miami, and Seattle and Detroit for all intents and purposes are in Detroit. So you're talking about an hour difference. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But
They want the prime time money slots. That's why.
yeah, that's the
It's
whole
all
thing.
it's all money. It's all money, Angel. You know that.
Yeah. But you brought up I kind of want to bring up something as well because you had mentioned briefly about Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson, I'm kind of not really kind of surprised either. Miami hasn't made the phone call to Pittsburgh because of the way Justin Fields have been playing. But I want to kind of tie that in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields back to Matt Eberflus because Matt Eberflus was able to squeak one out yesterday with the Bears. They won that game. And I know a lot of fans were riding this high horse because, preseason means absolutely nothing to anybody in the NFL at all, period.
Yep.
They go
Yep.
3-0, and then they have their up and down.
You obviously saw Belichick talking about that, right? It was pretty funny. He was talking about Caleb. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just to me, it Matt Eberflus, and I could be wrong. By the way, Rick Marcus says, "Did you see that Pete Rose passed away?" I have not seen it because we've been on air, but that would be interesting if that's the case.
Is that true?
I don't know. I'm gonna go back to Major League Baseball here and see if it's actually true. That would be a shock if he passed away. I don't see it yet on Major League Baseball unless he just came through the wire right now. And Rick, I
He
know
is. He's dead. He's dead. He's dead. Yahoo Sports has it. He's dead.
wow.
And Cincinnati paper TMZ has it. Yeah, he's dead. New York Post. Yeah, it's all over. He's dead. 83.
Holy molies. Okay.
I just
So
mentioned him like half an hour ago. There you go.
yeah. So all right. I know it's going to be a long drawn out conversation. Now that Pete's gone, and obviously the whole gambling thing and everything else is gone with him, does he finally get the nod to make it into the Hall of Fame?
No, and he shouldn't. He shouldn't make the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
He did the one thing. He did the one thing you can't do, and he lied about it.
Yeah.
And when he was player manager, he was whether he did it on purpose or not, he was tipping off gamblers by how he would bet on the games. It's like what just happened with the Mets and the Braves. If you know when you're going to use your pitchers and when to manipulate the game, it's like insider trading.
Yeah.
And there's so many players that didn't gamble. And by the way, Pete's in the Hall of Fame. His story's in the Hall of Fame for all the hits. But he did the one thing and he lied about it. And I'm sorry, Mike Schmidt and a lot of other guys think he should be in. That's their opinion. Mike Schmidt won a World Series because of Pete Rose.
Yep.
So obviously, and Mike Schmidt's probably the best third baseman I've ever seen, him and George Brett. But you know, it's there's rules for the Hall of Fame. He hurt the integrity of the game. At Major League Baseball, when Pete Rose was gambling, becomes the WWE, and Hulk Hogan's not playing first base for the Reds. So I mean, it's the reality of what he did, and it's sad because he was obviously a great player, part of an historic team.
Mm-hmm.
With Johnny Bench and Joe Morgan and Davey Concepcion and Cesar Geronimo and all those guys, George Foster. But he did what he did, and these guys all signed things. We're seeing it now with the online gambling, and a couple of these guys, Calvin Ridley and other guys, getting suspended in NFL. And this is 40 years ago, so it's sad that he's dead. I don't think anybody's going to change their opinion about Pete Rose. People like him or not. Him being in the Hall of Fame isn't gonna, swing any. But it's like think about O.J. Simpson, right? There's an obvious example. Did they take him out of the Hall of Fame?
Nope.
Why? Because he was a great football player.
Yep.
It's not heaven. Lawrence Taylor and Jim Brown and a whole bunch of other guys have gotten in a lot of trouble. They're in the Hall of Fame. Paul Hornung, didn't he get in trouble for gambling?
Sure did.
I mean, there's others. I mean, read up on, Brett Favre's been in the news. He's done some bad stuff. But you're there because you were a football player. It's not heaven. It's you do things in your game. Ray Lewis, there's others.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad. But I'm a firm no on it. And it's been pretty consistent. He's had many opportunities to come on forward. He could have been an advocate and gone and talked to minor leaguers about, hey, don't make the mistake I did. And he didn't. He lied, and then he kind of came around, and then his story changed, and da-da-da. And, but again, somebody got all those hits. You don't take away his hits. You take away his ability to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And there's consequences to your actions and what you do. And that's one of the messages kids need to understand today. You do things. There are things in each walk of life. If you're a stockbroker, you do inside trading. That's bad. If you're come up with any other job. If you're a pharmacist and you're giving drugs to people, like the movie Dope Sick,
right,
which is great. Everybody should watch it. That type of thing. So, it's a sad day. Great player. Hell of a competitor, but hard no on him.
I think it's funny because I'll get back to Matt Eberflus for a second, because it being at Radio Row this year and watching DraftKings and all these other betting aspects that the NFL swore but now will never ever go to bed with them. Nope. But obviously the big bucks, they end up doing the talking. Gambling brings in a ton of money. Everybody knows it.
Sure.
Atlantic City,
sure.
And Vegas being the first two pretty much ever, especially Vegas, where you can do sports gambling. Now, of course, you can do it out here in Florida with the Hard Rock Bets app, but it's funny to me how the NFL for years had cried. And now if a guy, you already know that a lot of these NFL players are going to make bets. Now, they may not make bets against their own team, but anyone who says, listen, what are you talking about? I didn't bet on the game last week. You know what's happening.
Yeah, it's crazy. But again, the Pete Rose thing was like 40 years ago. So things have changed differently. And then back then you had OTB, off the track betting, and bookies and stuff like that. Now it's easy, DraftKings and so forth. And the Lions, they're playing it at Jameson Williams he got suspended for betting from his car at the facility. So, but again, the reality has changed, and the money is so much bigger now. I mean, if you're Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James, or Pat Mahomes, and you're betting $10,000 on a game and you lose all your money, you got to be an idiot. You have your contract voided by the NFL because you're betting on that, and everybody's going to bring up Michael Jordan and all the rumors there and so forth. It's a lot of rumors, And trust me, as somebody who's friends with a very popular, nationally known celebrity, the rumors and things you always hear are 99% of them aren't true, or portions of it are true. Like we talked about the Chicago Bears thing earlier. So there's other parts to every story. Some of it's usually true, most of it isn't. I could Google myself, and one of the things, I was Tommy's roommate. I wasn't. Another one is I played football at Michigan. God knows I didn't. There's all kinds of stuff out there that's just fake or wrong or just inaccurate, and it's not always on purpose. Guys make mistakes. My dad forgot the a spare tire on the way to the hospital to get rid of me. I'm kidding. The but But no, it was. It's just the way of the world, and it's sad, but it's the reality of the world we live in. Social media, like, great example. We just got the Pete Rose news. Back in the day, you have to wait to see it on Sports Center or the 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock news. Now we
Yeah.
got everything's on our phones. It's on Twitter. It's on Facebook, and that's good and bad, depending on what you want. We're sports guys, so we like to have injuries and updates. And you mentioned, gambling. The NFL created Red Zone for gambling and fantasy, which is about 75-80% of their sport, if you talk to them about it. So it's the reality of what it is.
It is. Right. I want to bring it back to Eberflus because you got to figure for a lot of Bears.
Man, you want him out, don't you? You don't like this Eberflus guy.
I don't because it's hey, listen, how in the world you got Justin Fields and did nothing with Justin Fields. Pittsburgh picks him up. He goes 3-0 minus the loss yesterday, but looks a lot better in Pittsburgh. So yeah, you were able to beat what the Rams yesterday, which
with half their team in an ambulance, by the way.
correct. So you're able to beat them, but to me, Justin Fields goes to a new location. Now, people keep saying like, oh, maybe they should sit down Caleb Williams. Why? They shouldn't. The whole thing is we got to see what Matt Eberflus is all about. And I'm not a Bears fan. God bless my wife because she is, but I'm not she's a Bears fan.
Woman.
Her. But I just don't. Matt Eberflus to me, okay, so you won a Canadian Football League championship. Great. That's all fine and wonderful. Two different things.
Is that true? Is that his claim to fame?
Yeah. Yep. So
like Bud Grant. Bud Grant did that.
Yeah, he did. But to me, Matt Eberflus to me has not proven much of anything whatsoever. And if the Bears end up losing, and Bears fans want him out as well. So again, on the sports side, I end up talking about it. But how do you take Justin Fields' new team? Russell Wilson was supposed to be the start. We kept hearing during the offseason and then during training camp, like, no, Russell Wilson's the guy, blah, 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 this and the other. Supposedly there's an injury. Justin Fields comes in and he saves the day. At least for now, Steelers are 3-1. Bears, on the other hand,
they're the other way. They're the other way.
Yeah. So they're still trying to find their ways as far as to come in and do the right thing. But I don't believe enough in Matt Eberflus to be able to take a Caleb Williams and make him a good starting quarterback versus a lot of people feel that either Caleb Williams should be set down or he shouldn't be playing there at all. I'm sorry. I look at the head coach when it comes down to it, no different than Sirianni when it comes to Jalen Hurts. But to me, Matt Eberflus, come on. I think it's just as wrong as with the White Sox and that atrocious season that they had. And I can't even believe that they had the one game 10 fans showed up. That was 10 too many. What a
10 people really showed up at the game.
Yeah, they posted on social media. Some guy laughed and goes, "Oh, I think I counted 17, but it was 10." Could you imagine? Like that is the worst ticket sales I believe, and at least since the last strike from
94,
MLB.
Yeah, 94. Yeah.
Jesus. And then they come out with a statement yesterday, like it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing for them. It was embarrassing for the fans. So now you got to think about it. If you're the White Sox, who are you going to pursue to come in here and change things around? Because to me,
there's two guys.
Okay.
Theo Epstein and Billy Beane.
Yeah, but how much is going to cost you to get Theo Epstein? That's
because I know that the Mets talked to Theo Epstein, so that eliminates money because Steve Cohen has more money than God. So
right.
I think Theo Epstein's at a point in his life where he needs to do certain things. I don't know where Billy Beane is his life. And obviously he's part of the A's moving. And he's more of the business operations than the running the team. But no, that's obviously a tremendous undertaking. We'll see. But no, I think you need to have organizational plan, and obviously got to build it from the ground up. I mean, they're historically a horrible team. They broke the 62 Mets record, and that was a true expansion team with no free agency. And people like Don Zimmer on that team. It's funny, the Mets, which they did, they were in the news a lot because the 62 team
Mm-hmm.
and the Tigers did what the 73 Mets did. But the 73 Mets were completely different because there was one team from each division. There was 4 teams that made the playoffs. And the Mets had to come back and win the division. The division was down that year. The Phillies were bad. The Cardinals are coming off the Kurt Flood, Lou Brock, Bob Gibson teams, Tim McCarver, and they were kind of different. And the Mets made the playoffs with 83 wins, and they beat a great Reds team that was just starting to figure things out with Pete Rose, and Tony Perez and Johnny Bench and all those guys. And speaking of Pete Rose, big fight he started in against Buddy Harrelson of all people, the Mets shortstop, breaking up a double play. And but no, it was and the Tigers did that rule. But now the Tigers is different. They didn't win the division, but it's a different era with the wild cards. More teams making the playoffs. But it's that it's nice to see the 73 Mets get recognized because they had arguably the greatest starting pitcher ever in Tom Seaver. They arguably the greatest center fielder ever at the end of his career, Willie Mays.
Yeah.
On that team, and then we talked about Rusty Staub and Jerry Kuzman and John Matlack was on that team. Buddy Harrelson was an all-star. Wayne Garrett was the third baseman. Cleon Jones was in left field. That was Felix Milan, second base. And Tug McGraw, who you got to believe was something he said. He started that. So, and obviously he won the World Series with your Phillies with Mike Schmidt and Pete Rose and some other guys there. I think Bob Boone was the catcher.
Yep.
And Larry Baugh,
Mm-hmm.
shortstop, and Lazinski, and God, that is a good team. Bake McBride. Well, I think I watched a little baseball, Angel back in the day.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah, I could name your whole Steve Carlton, Ron Reed, Steve Carlton. But no, that was a great team. I remember John Denny. He wasn't on that team, but he was coming. And Steve Bedrosian and Kevin Gross, and man, they had good teams. And the Pirates were really good back then too. Willie Stargell and Dave Parker, and Kent Tekulve with the glasses.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was fun. That was a good time.
Speaking about the Pirates, do you think if Skeens keep pitching the way he does, how long can that arm stay that way? Because you got to figure, I mean, it's over 100 miles an hour to 100 miles an hour, capping it off, throughout the entire season.
They all break. They all break. Look at I mentioned the 2015 Mets, and look at Verlander and Scherzer. That's why the Tigers are winning, trying to win, but they got to be careful with Struble, because I think before this year the most he ever threw was 90 innings, and I think he's at 145 now, or 175. Is it 145 or 175? He's at a high number. Yeah, you've got to be. You're almost better off being like Greg Maddux, where it's free and easy, and not a lot of exertion, and so it's harder. And Mario Rivera's another. Mario Rivera had Tommy John in the minors, and he never had any problems. John Smoltz had a lot of arm injuries, and he moved up and down between starting and closing. And Tom Glavine, I don't think he had a lot of injuries. Randy Johnson had more like knee and back stuff than his arm. And he's a photographer now. But Randy Johnson's just an anomaly. Now the amazing one is Nolan Ryan, who's just he's like Tommy. He's a genetic freak, and he could just play forever. But they're outliers. And the amazing thing about Nolan Ryan and Tommy, they both worked with Tom House, who also worked. Tom House also worked with Tom Seaver because he pitched with Tom Seaver in college at USC. So it's really hard, and it's the 1% of the 1%. Are the Dwight Goodens, the Randy Johnsons, the Justin Verlanders, the Roger Clemens before he was on roids, and Johan Santana, Tim Lincecum, all those guys. And, the Tim Lincecums and Johan Santana, they had their peaks and they kind of fell apart physically. Jacob deGrom's like this. But no, that's why I have such great respect for Greg Maddux, who I don't think gets talked about enough. It was just incredible.
Yeah.
The things just consistently day after day. Another one is Kurt Schilling. Now, Kurt was a bigger guy, but he had a lot of arm issues and injuries. And, but, and Pedro wasn't a big guy and he hurt his arm. But no, it's a good question about Skeens. I'd have to break him down analytically. You remember Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood? They
Yeah.
came in together and they both got hurt. Barry Zito, Mark Mulder, and Tim Hudson. And I mentioned all the Mets guys. And go back 30 years ago, the Generation K guys in the Mets. Bill Pulsiver, Jason Isringhausen, and Paul Wilson. They all got hurt. Isringhausen was good. He had a really good career as a closer. But, it's hard to do, to throw. That's why they make the big bucks. And, Corbin Burns is going to have a lot of people calling to pay him. And Steve Cohen will be in the front of the line, clearly. But, it is what it is. Tim Lincecum was an outlier, too, just the way he was. One of my U of M buddies played against him at Oregon State, one of our coaches, Tyler Graham. And, that guy would pitch Friday night, throw like 130 pitches, and then close on Sunday.
Insane.
And that was what? That was like almost 20, 25 years ago?
Yeah.
When he was in college. Yeah, so, so it's nuts. And Randy Johnson. No, the thing that was interesting about Jacob deGrom, he was a shortstop in college. He became a pitcher. He hit a home run off Chris Sale in college when he was at Stetson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. So, and then you have guys like Tim Wakefield who pitched forever. And, Brett Saberhagen was another one. Brett Saberhagen was a shortstop. They made him a pitcher, and he had a great career. So, obviously, it's amazing. Well, the amazing thing is Jacob Cronenworth, who's the all-star second baseman for the Padres,
right?
The all-time saves leader at Michigan. Career, he had like 40-something saves, I think. And he was a closer at Michigan. And he doesn't pitch in the majors.
You're talking about a lot of throwback names. Yeah, a lot of throwback names as the show's coming to a close here, and then right after Beavs World is Lloyd Vance's Insider Football. But a lot of good names, and it seems like it's. I know it's one a couple years separated from Tim Lincecum, but God, it feels like the forever. When you bring up certain names, it's just like how quick does time go? Especially when you've had name players. You may not have been a fan of the team, but some of these guys have played for teams. I would love to have them as part of the Philly squad, but didn't work out the way it was supposed to have.
Well, that team you had with Halliday and Cliff Lee.
Yep.
And if you know Cliff Lee's story, he was a fringe minor league player, I believe, in the Expos system.
Mm-hmm.
And Ace Adams, who's the pitching coach here at Michigan, had him, I believe, in Montreal's system and taught him the cutter. And that made Cliff Lee's career.
Unbelievable.
Ace Adams. Famous Michigan pitching coach and pitch all over. He fixed Cliff Lee's career, made Cliff Lee's career.
Unbelievable. Well,
yeah, and Roy Halladay. Roy Halladay was another guy, like Kurt Schilling, big, strong guy, and just power down, like how Tom Seaver was. And Roy Halladay was awesome. You've seen Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter used to hit Pedro, which is amazing, but he said Halladay was harder for him to hit off of, because he never knew what the hell was coming. And Halladay would just keep him off bounce. And Jeter hit Pedro, which is, if you look at Mike Piazza, the two pitchers Piazza owned were Clemens and Pedro. He was Pedro's catcher on the Dodgers. So that's that. You wonder why Mike Piazza's in the Hall of Fame. He killed Roger Clemens and Pedro. And the guy Will Clark owned. Will Clark's first major league at bat, he hit home run off Nolan Ryan. He has the most home runs off Nolan Ryan, Will Clark does.
Good Lord.
If you want to laugh, one of the better ones on Baseball Reference, when you look it up, type up Don Mattingly against Kurt Schilling. I think he's 2 for 2 with 2 grand slams off Kurt Schilling.
Oh, wow.
You got to look it up. I know he's got 2 home runs. I know he had 1 grand slam. And I think he hit 2 off. And if I remember incorrectly, I might be wrong. I don't think Tom Seaver ever allowed a grand slam. I got to look this, double check it.
Yeah,
there's some crazy stat that Seaver never allowed a grand slam.
Well, we'll get into it and come Wednesday. That's the next time that Jay will be on with Beavs World. That would be on Wednesday night from 6 to 8 p.m. Of course, tonight was the premiere night for Jay's Beavs World. And thank you all for tuning in here at Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game on the Coastal Sports Network. Of course, all brought to you by Broad Street South. And Don't forget, Lloyd Vance is coming up next right after this. More football talk. Javon Alford will be his guest. He'll be filling in for Kevin Midget. So thank you to Jay. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to Deborah and Joey B. And I forgot who was one of the earlier ones as well. Well, Pete, when Pete made his comment. But thank you all. We will talk to you once again on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. when we'll be right back here all over again. So thank you to Jay. Thank you, everyone. Have yourselves a great night. And Lloyd Vance is up next.
There you go.